And when stars are in light, though we burn, we would know.
Hello, welcome to Revenue Hacks this week. We have Harry Fielder from Umi Digial, and we're going to talk about digital and tech. But first, maybe let's have a small introductions about all the hosts that we have today. Christina, you want to start?
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday, middle of the week. Christmas jumpers are out.
Yay!
It's December.
Thank you. Harry?
Hi, I'm Harry. I run a business called Umi Digital. I have a far less interesting top on, but it's kind of red, so a bit of Christmas theme, I guess. But I don't actually own a Christmas jumper, which is shocking. So I need to get on the 24-hour Primark train, I think.
Oh my God.
Open 24 hours a day. Sort myself out.
Great, well, welcome. And I'm B, for those that don't know me, founder and managing director of MyOC, a consulting company specialized in optimization of revenue in hotels. And I'm kind of like a snowman today, so it's perfect. We're in the theme. Right. So for those who are watching online, please feel free to drop any comments, questions, and we'll try as much as we can to answer any of the questions that you have about digital. So digital is like a big word that we keep on hearing. Here in Revenue Hacks, we're focusing a lot about revenue and commercial strategies, but digital is really key. Currently, the world is digital, customers are digitalized, etc. So how do we do that? What does it mean, a digital transformation, really? Any clue?
Oh, good question. I think for me, it's the transition of following and adopting lots of different technical solutions. It's the transition from doing that to actually having a holistic overview of what you're actually trying to achieve. So you see, I think you can have a lot of hotels that use a lot of shiny tools, but I wouldn't say they have successfully transitioned, that's not digital transformation. Just by adopting and plugging stuff in, for me, is not digital transformation. It's the transition into seeing digital through the lens of the guest experience and in a holistic way that's ultimately going to change the business. So how, as a short example, I guess you can pull in a live chat tool, you can pull in a data capture tool for your CRM, you can collect details for an ebook download or whatever. Is that all contributing to one overarching view of the guest, or is all of this data just sitting in each respective shiny system? And most often I see people that have almost self-claimed digital transformationists, right, who plug in so much shiny tech or sexy tech, and they're basically being magpies because they're just following the shiny stuff. And for me, the digital transformation is stepping back from that and viewing that in a kind of holistic way. So how is our guest experience genuinely going to improve, or looking at it through the lens of the guest, I guess, for me.
Okay. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. It's thinking about more of a strategy, which is more of a vision rather than an upgrade, if I understand well. Like how not to look at digital as upgrading your systems, but more about how to create a strategy around what are the needs of the guest, potentially the ones that we know and the one that we kind of guess for the future or anticipate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if you, for example, like people would say, oh, we've undergone a digital transformation because we're sending SMS thank you notes to people having just stayed. Is that better than the reception or the general manager or whoever writing a little handwritten note and leaving it in their room? It's not better. So it's not, the mindset's wrong. It's using tech for the sake of tech, which is not the point. And I think if you try and see it through the lens of the guest experience, then you start getting closer to digital transformation. Just by upgrading certain things doesn't make you that's not transforming your business in a digital way. That's just plugging in shiny stuff.
I think it also needs to be noted as well that people are afraid, hoteliers are afraid, this industry is afraid of tech change in a lot of cases, because when we say digital transformation or we say technology transformation, that costs money. Owners, boards, financial controllers, they all just hear, oh no, ka-ching is going out the door. How much is that going to cost us? And I think also because hospitality, although it's such a big, big sphere, it's also such a small world. You know, everyone knows each other. So it's not necessarily the same tech that your neighbor has that you need to have. And I think when hotels are looking at digital transformation, especially now, we've seen hotels go through warp speed transformation in the last 9 months. You know, everyone has gone from being just standardized pen and paper and, you know, checking in the guests, giving them their key card, to now being a digital solution. That knowing that you need to actually properly sit down, analyze, figure out what you want, try out new products, but also see it as an investment, and you will get an ROI on it. It's not, it's not just a time-saving thing for your staff and a safety thing. It's also, you know, it will contribute to your bottom line eventually. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in that long run of things, it will.
So how do we quantify that, actually? Because that's a really good point, talking about ROI on your digital journey. Is it by looking at really the feedback from the guest? Is it looking at how the staff is actually adopting it and pushing the guest to use it? Or like how do we calculate that?
I think there's a few different ways of looking at it. You know, one of them obviously is now the whole seamless transition of being able to make your booking, to check in through that, making that booking, to actually accessing your bedroom. That's what a customer wants. A customer wants to see the whole digital way all the way through. And it just means that, you know, you need to make sure that everything is seamless every way through. And you just need to sit down and explain this to people. Your staff, I remember saying this at the start of the week, you know, if you have flashy light bulbs in your house, you've got a phone that can do everything, why can't your technology in a hotel do it? You know, people should be looking at it, especially hotels and owners, that if I have a smartphone and I can use my smartphone for paying, for opening my doors, for talking to people through my intercom when I'm not there, then my technology in a hotel should be like that. Because when someone's coming to stay, they're coming to stay in a home away from home, but they expect the same items that they have at home. And now more than ever, we've been plummeted into a digital tech world in the last 9 months again, and it's been huge. You know, so many people now have Ring doorbells. So many people have tech lights. So many people have a Google and Alexa, you know, that they can talk to. And they're solutions that we're able to adopt into our hotels to increase the customer journey, to be able to increase customer satisfaction. It also gives you that USP above everybody else. If you can do this safely, it's perfect, you know, and that gives you that edge over everybody else, especially because people are just so afraid to spend money right now.
Yeah. It's a
on
good
the
point.
ROI piece, I think sorry, you go.
No, go ahead, Ari, that's fine.
I was just thinking, like, quite often, I think digital, because it's less tangible, is often seen further down. Like if you've got flaking wallpaper, that is addressed very, very quickly, right? It's a tangible thing. I can relate to it. It doesn't look good. It doesn't show us in a good light. But more important, you know, if your website is falling over and it doesn't work particularly well on mobile, or it's slow or it's clunky, or you get carted off to a booking engine that looks completely different or whatever, that's the same thing. It's your brand, and yes, you can look at it as an ROI, but is the maintenance team that's fixing that wallpaper spending that money with a direct thought process to, when am I going to see a return on investment for fixing this wallpaper? Or they're going, I need to uphold the brand standards here. And I think there is also that there's also that mentality to actually think all your digital touch points, from booking engine through to the website, newsletters, everything is an extension of your brand. And it's as important as a flaking piece of wallpaper in a room, in my opinion, because I think that's where the customer journey starts, the guest journey starts. And yes, it might end in a physical place, sure. Or it might end in a digital place with a follow-up, etc. But you need to, I think we need to digital transformation for me is like that mindset that digital piece there is as important, or seen in the same way from an investment point of view, as the ROI on fixing a door that's fallen off its hinges, because that gets addressed very quickly. But quite often, because it's less tangible, and unless you're a developer, it's tricky to explain exactly how it's built or how it's, all of that kind of thing. It's harder to wrap your head around the importance of something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it's a good point that you say it's an extension, because it's an extension of the staff and it's an extension of the product that we're offering also. And that's very often, and we have quite a lot of comments on that on the chat. Thanks, thank you guys for telling us that. But yeah, it's not necessarily about replacing the staff, for example, as Alim was mentioning, but this is really about how to give a better service. And you named it. Like sometimes maybe a handwriting note will be better than a text for some clients, but it's about like having these options to hand and knowing exactly as a brand what do we want to deliver to the clients, right?
Yeah. You mentioned Alexa, Christina. I think one thing we tried out, and I would pose this challenge to anyone listening, is you can actually hook up a webcam with some video analysis software. It's all open source, right? In a reception. Okay, so and then what we did is, this is just us messing around. We connected that to an Alexa skill, so you could ask how many people are in the queue in reception. And so, from a social distancing point of view, like it's two open source pieces of technology that can be connected very, very quickly together. That was quite fun. So, anyone that has developers at their disposal, I pose a challenge: put that in place. If you have Alexa.
That's it. You know, I remember when Google and Amazon Alexa first came out, and everyone was saying that they were going to be in a hotel room in 3 years' time. I got my first Google Home 4 years ago when I was at WTM, because we couldn't buy them in Ireland. I actually bought it in Canary Wharf.
Oh, okay.
To this day, I still haven't seen one in a hotel room, by the way. So, you know, where was this gone? Because again, people just see it as an additional cost. When you're building a hotel and you're working with brands in particular, it's different when you're independent. You can actually put what you want in there. However, if you're working with a brand, you just see the cost constantly go up. I know that because we're building 2 properties with 2 different international brands at the moment, and we just see them going. Now, that's part of the deal. You have to put this in. But I think brands are so far behind. International brands are really behind on this tech thing. They're immersing money into connections. They're not immersing money correctly into proper digital transformation of their systems. They're looking at, you know, keyless entry. That's fine. That's old tech though. Keyless entry was on brand requirements 3 years ago, 4 years ago. You know, they're not actually looking at what do people have at home that they want to have at home that's going to do it. Because for me, I'm sorry guys, smart TV doesn't even cut it anymore. You know, I have a tablet, I've got an iPod, I've got a phone, I've got everything. That's my smart TV. I don't need it on a big screen right now. I want to be able to actually say to something, turn on the light, turn off the light, rather than have to flick on a switch. Could be laziness, but it's also the tech thing in me, because I don't turn on lights here. I go home to my mum's house and it's like, what's this again? You know, and that's just how, you know, I can't.
Yeah. No, I have that in my house.
If you can't control it from your phone, people are just, they're not able, especially now, the newer generation. You know, I look at from my side, my stepdaughter, she loves traveling. She loves going to hotels, but she likes to be able to see modern technology in hotels and see it work correctly. So if her iPod isn't working and her Wi-Fi is bad, she just doesn't understand it. She can't get it. And now that she doesn't have her iPod at the moment because it went back to Apple, she literally can't, she's like, I can't function. My hand is empty. I can't turn on a light. I can't watch telly. I can't, you know, you're like, this is what we need to think of as hoteliers now. We're not replacing people's jobs. And I think that's very important to know as well, is that digital transformation is not placing people's jobs, because you need to have the right people in place to actually do this digital transformation and actually keep it going and keep it alive. And I think that's something as well, hotel managers, revenue managers, and staff in general are afraid of doing, only because they just know it's not just the cost element, but oh god, I mightn't have a job tomorrow. Will a robot take over? That's not how it works. People are always going to be needed in hotels, and I think that's a very sad indictment on our industry if we think that we're going to be replaced by a piece of technology.
Yeah, no, it's going to enhance the experience only. So talking about those systems like Alexa, what do you see, maybe a question for you first, Harry, what do you see as a new like wider tech trends happening in 2021, and how can this impact actually hospitality?
So just bouncing off the Alexa thing, I think voice search, you know, will massively change how we optimize for things. They were saying at the beginning of the year, or there were reports out that apparently 30% of all browsing sessions are going to include an element of voice by the end of 2020. I don't know if that's happened. That was certainly announced at the beginning of the year. I have no numbers to put to that if it happened, but essentially the way we search for voice and the way we interact from a technological delivery point of view the things we ask, the things we demand, our acceptance for speed or our acceptance for how long we can wait for stuff is so different, right? If a website loads in 5 seconds, it's not great, but you know, some people might tolerate it. If it loads in 3 seconds, again, people will probably tolerate it. But if your Alexa delayed, didn't respond to you in 5 seconds or 4 seconds or something like that, would you tolerate that? Or like, would you? And I think the way we optimize for SEO, you know, we're answering questions now. Voice search is so question and answer based, and most websites are keyword based, keyword optimized, right? They're optimized for the way we type, and search results delivered is very different to how voice is done.
I have your stats.
Typically on that, does it mean that we need to, as a hotel, for example, I'd look like, how do I want to communicate with my clients? I still have obviously the speed dial for if I have a phone in the room, because that's not even like something that is really happening anymore. But if there is a phone, is it a speed dial for the front desk, or is it Alexa that I'm going to ask a question to Alexa, or is it a WhatsApp number? Or like, I guess it depends also on the culture and where you are. Like I'm working with some hotels in Central America, for example. They're all about WhatsApp. That's it. Like we do all the communications on WhatsApp. We would not really do it in the UK. I don't think that's really there yet, or maybe not. Maybe we should try actually. But it's just like, how do we really segment that and choose the best for each of our properties? Is that what you mean?
So people like doing things in lots of different ways, and I think we just need to like for example, is it better to have a calendar date picking widget on your website, or just a book now button that takes you off, right? The answer is both, because people expect different things. Is it best to have a live chat or a contact form? The answer is both, because some people like live chat, some people like a contact form, right? Some people like clicking on an email and opening it in their email client. And I think the mentality is everyone like browsing in different ways. The voice, the commands we use with an Echo, like with Alexa, is different to how we interact with Google Home, which is different to how we talk to Siri, right? And so it's kind of tricky, because we're all of these enormous companies are vying not just to dominate a revenue stream, but they're trying to dominate an entire platform.
Yeah.
So they're trying to dominate like everything and keep everything within that platform. And so the more they give out Amazon Echoes and Google Homes for like free or next to nothing, that's them trying to occupy that platform. And that's not the Echo is not the point. It's the rest of the whole ownership of Amazon. I had a letter through the post yesterday, which was like free 3 months for Amazon Music. You've got Amazon Prime, you got the Echo, you've got shopping, obviously, you got Amazon, like food. We're not talking, and particularly when it's mapped that onto travel, we're not talking about one travel vertical anymore. We're talking about the entire thing. So Google Flights, Google Hotels, you find it through Google Maps. You see the reviews through Google Maps. It's you call that and chat through the hotel through the Google Maps app, right? So in middle of 2019, more than 50% of all searches were 0 click, i.e. they never left Google. Which means, is Google a search engine? Yes, but now that less than half of all searches or interactions with Google in that search capacity never actually leave it. So we think of Google as distributing traffic, but it's not. It's holding on to it, and that's their goal, is to hold on to it. And that really kind of that's the big thing throughout 2021, because I think you've got, but other players are going to do this as well. Like you've got, I would be very, very surprised if Facebook and Instagram don't go into the travel space, because they've got that discovery phase sorted, which Google already had sorted. They've got the discovery and awareness part of the buying cycle, and now they just need to execute on the further bits, because you're trying to own the whole journey now, as opposed to just a part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense, but it's kind of depressing. Then what do we do? Because how do we get people to, apart from staying in our beds, but how do they interact? How do we interact with them actually?
On that, just because I want to elaborate on that part as well with Bee's question, because I'm going to add more fuel to the fire. So I just done a quick check online, and again, I couldn't do a voice search, but 55% of teenagers up to this date have actually done all their searches through voice search, believe it or not, this year on a daily basis. And 60% of mobile users have used voice search in the last year to actually do searches. But when you actually look at, and I actually completely forgot about this, how do we change how we market our hotels to these people in this sphere? Because Amazon Alexa and everyone else always returns 23 words about that particular thing. Okay, so if you ask it about a hotel, it's only 23 words, whereas Google does 41. So is it now up to hotels to literally shorten their first whatever blurb text it is to make it so punchy that it makes people want to book? And how does that work as well for the journey with booking flights and, you know, package holidays or even tours? Like how is that going to change? What should we be doing now, in your opinion, Harry, to actually build our footprint on that particular area?
Yeah. Big questions. But I think, you know, there's no perfect right answer. I think what we're trying to do in terms of the search side of things, I believe that in order for these search engines, like primarily Google in this instance, I'm referring to capitalize on very kind of vague questions that we don't know. We can't optimize for, I need a hotel that supports American Express, or I need a hotel that is open after 11 that costs less than £400. Like, we can't optimize for that. But what we can do, and I do think things like schema markup and being able to put very rich data, like rich data behind the scenes into our sites will become, at the moment, it's a nice to have, really. I mean, it's not, you can get by without having it all the content of your site tagged up from a schema markup point of view. But I do, that data is what these companies are going to need to latch onto, because it's not going to be, I'm not going to be answering, my research results are not going to be based on certain questions or key terms. They're going to be based on the data, the underlying data that's there. It's like
maybe
like
just
Google
for the audience to explain, schema is all that will come back from FAQ, for example. So all the questions that are there on the background of your website.
Yeah,
Go
like
ahead,
if you
sorry.
ask Google how long it takes to
You're muted, Harry, now. You're muted.
He gets into really important information and we
I
can't hear
know.
him.
That's, well, I think he's got a massive point. Now your mic is showing on mute, actually. So that's why.
Now?
Yes.
It's good?
Yes, you're back.
All right. Sorry about that, guys.
I feel
That's
like,
fine.
Harry, you cut off when you were trying to explain the secret sauce or something like that. It just went.
Yeah. So
It
I'm
was
just
made up, it was on purpose.
mentioning, like, schema is basically, if you Google how to boil an egg, you're not going to go to a website that tells you how to boil an egg. It's going to come up in what's called a rich snippet. So, and that's because the website that explains how to boil an egg has tagged up their content in a particular way so that Google can actually present that information directly as opposed to referring you onto something else. But that also includes payment, accepted payments. When are you open? Do you allow dogs? What's your rack rate? Like, what hotel facility, what types of bed have you got, right? And so asking Google then, I need a double bed close to XYZ. If we provide, I think we need the goal here and to compete is providing all these different platforms with very hard and fast data to be able to make those decisions on. I think like Google Hotel Ads, we've started seeing organic listings in Google Hotel Ads, right, alongside it, which is kind of crazy. But that relies not on keywords and optimizing what's on our site. That relies on our like the connections that we have with our booking engine, being able to provide data to all these platforms in a very structured, meaningful way. And it's not quite as it's not like traditional content marketing. I'm going to put loads of keywords out about this. It's making sure that all of these platforms that ultimately people are discovering content on is fed really appropriately, because we can't expect to turn up in an Alexa search if we're not feeding it with the right data. And and like with Google, the Google example is traditionally around schema, but I would not be surprised if schema is an open thing. It's not just a Google thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon, starts doing that as well. Things like, it's just quite easy to make your own custom Alexa skills as well, like actually extending, if you do have those in your hotel, making that part of your brand, making the responses part of your brand. You can have, you can focus on the tone of voice. You can focus on like what would your receptionist normally say? What would the concierge normally say? And kind of build that into it. I think there's lots of opportunities to do that there. But
so I think one thing hotels should do is definitely look at their FAQs for sure. shorten them and make them taglines. Think about what you would look for when you ask questions, and maybe ask other people, not colleagues, but friends and family. What would they ask if they were searching, for sure? Because I'm definitely now I'm going to ask the 10-year-old today in the car on the way home, what would you do if you were searching? Because I definitely think millennials and teenagers are the way of the future. When it comes to searching, Harry, the dreaded cookie and data protection, especially in Europe, is huge and following. I'm sorry, I'm fed up of clearing my cache, clearing everything out, saying no to absolutely everything, finding that and what drives me nuts is when a website says it can't optimize because I don't pick cookies. Are we ever going to move into a future where there's no such thing as cookies? Because these things just exploded. It's 4 or 5 years now, massively in the last 5 years, for sure. And I was telling you backstage about a story in the past with them. Will we see this go? Do you think it's going to die a death, or will it only get worse?
Well, third-party cookies will die a death because they've got a time limit on. I think I think they pushed it back a little bit, but it's about 2 years. And just for information, a third-party cookie is when you install like third-party tracking scripts like traditionally like Google Analytics or Hotjar or a live chat tool. All of these kind of things use cookies, but they're set from third-party vendors, right? They will become not a thing at some point. They will be not allowed at some point. First-party cookies, there's no indication that you can't use first-party cookies. So I don't see those changing. People will still be able to personalize the experience based on user interaction. So if let's say I've been looking at weddings, right, and I come back to the site, the homepage for the kind of forward-thinking sites the site will then be optimized for one of my previous engagements, right? Typically, because it will know that. The biggest difficulty in a cookieless future, right, or third-party cookies not being allowed, is Google Analytics. So Google Analytics 4, the whole goal for Google Analytics 4 over Universal Analytics was, how do we track people in a cookieless world? And that's the massive question. And the thing with the answer is we're going to have to get used to partial data sets, because we are physically, there's no guarantee that Google Analytics can now remember if it's a returning bit, what they're doing, because they can't use cookies because they are a third party, right? Google is a third party in all of these cases. And so their response to that is, we're going to use AI and machine learning to fill in all of the gaps in all of these data sets using sort of predictive technology. So one way we're going into this hyper tracking, we need to know everything about the user journey, we need to know everything about them. But then the technology that's built on is literally going to evaporate in 2 years. And so Google's comeback to that was, we're going to use AI to fill in the gaps, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
And
lots of things happening in this area.
Marketing, for example, that's a third-party cookie. You see an advert on your newspaper website for a particular hotel, and that remarketing it's entirely on cookies. So how? That's quite a big question. And that's what Booking.com. So their ad spend, I think the reason why Google hasn't got into the travel before they have is because you've got your Booking.coms, your Expedias, who are the biggest customers in the world for the search engines. And so do you cut your nose off by going into the hotel booking space and basically sack off or really significantly hurt the revenue that you're getting from these massive customers?
But there is the rise of those super apps, actually, and I guess, yeah, as much as they have lots of revenue from advertising from the Booking.coms, etc., the traditional OTAs, Google is becoming the biggest OTA in reality. So how do we? That's one of the things that hotels still are not so used to it. I mean, when we talk about meta search, for example, which is 6 years old or something like that, and it's still evolving, and people are not really paying too much attention to that. They still put it as in an advertising budget, but that's actually key. So that's now the time where you need to tackle that or work with it, because you don't really have the choice, and not do the same mistake as what hotel had done 10, 15 years ago with OTAs and the beginning and the rise of Booking.com, etc. So I think it's is there a way for hotels independent, maybe bigger brands easier, I don't know, to tackle that? Or how can we get into that space also and make our hotels having a competitive advantage against those distributors, which are not the operators? Is there a way?
I think it's training. I think for sure, anyways, you know this as well as I do, you know, and we've actually recommended so many times during the lockdown 1, lockdown 2, do Google Analytics training, get into Google, get into the nitty gritty and understand it. You know, some hotels don't even know how to drop a pin, you know, and I understand there's not sales managers in every role. I understand that, you know, there might not be a revenue team in every hotel. However, it's something basic that even a general manager should know where your ad spend is going and how it's working and what keywords, you know, because there's so many people that spend so much money on keywords that don't even work for them. And that's it's sad because people see marketing as, you know, an expense, whereas I see marketing as increasing the guest. It is an expense, but I also see it as increasing, you know, your bottom line at a hotel. And it's also knowing what you can do and push your limits to be able to see things. And I've learned so much over time from you guys, especially on revenue hacks each week, on different areas I would never have pushed before that now we're able to kind of explore in a different world. And I think that's something that hotels need to do. You need to have that, you know, go get them type experience and just say, right, I'm going to immerse myself. I know learning things can be boring, totally boring, but this is actually really cool. Believe it or not, you know, when you actually realize you can tap into people's, you know, psyche almost, it's amazing. And there is kind of an element, I did say this, of, you know, intrusion, but, you know, we've all had them in our life in regards to cookies or everything, and we're able to explore it across the world. Meta searches again, and I see Susanna's popping up. Susanna, hope you're well. So nice to have you with us, even though you're in the chat. People use meta search just to see where the leaked rates are going from. They don't actually see it as a selling tool. You know, they don't. I think people have actually given up looking for rate parity as well. That's one thing I've noticed. You know, they've always said, oh, well, meta search is always leaked rates from B2B partners, so we can't really stop that. It's not. You can actually push your own rates out to the meta as well, by actually having the right channels in place and the right, you know, distribution ways in place and understanding your systems to be able to do it.
Yeah, and that's your entrance, basically. That's your entrance to your own word and your own website, etc. That's where people can really start discovering you out of Google, because there's not much other choices.
Yeah.
So when we discussed a bit about experience economy, etc., like what's the commercial advantage that we have as a hotel? I guess we all agree that this is the experience that we give to the guests. So what are the new trend? Like, what kind of opportunities can we have to capitalize on this trend currently?
So I think just on the experience economy side of things, we are moving naturally towards people are not necessarily searching for functional things so much. We're not looking for a hotel in XYZ. I think the aspirational, the inspirational side is much more important, in that we're looking for a style of travel or a vibe or whatever. And I think where Google and Expedia and all these guys are investing massively is connecting all the different verticals within the travel purchase journey, right? So your flights, and I know Suzanne, if you were here, you'd have lots of really interesting things to say, and I'm sure you'll put them in the chat as well. But I know Journey is doing some really cool stuff. So, but in terms of bringing all of these different parts of the travel booking journey together, what we're doing is we're creating an experience, and that experience, the advantage that we have as an independent is that all the distribution, like the OTAs and stuff, they don't have the partnerships that we do with our local area. They don't have the knowledge of the local area like we do. They are not equipped to put a sort of gourmet journey around this particular village in the countryside, right? Or that includes a tour of the caves, a cider tasting, you know, picking up in a Land Rover and going into the hills, and you know, all that kind of stuff. They don't have the capacity to do that, because it's commoditized, because it's a room, or it's a room and a flight. And what they're not able to do, and this is such a massive area of competitive advantage, is that we can hand pick all of our stuff. And we can, if we're clever about it, we can partner up with local vendors, local everyone, that we can pull together, and we can act as a team, right? And if you ask even just the question to people that are staying in your hotel, what are you doing while you're here, right? Find out what they're doing, because if they had a really good trip and they did all of these different things, why not pull that together and start offering all of these things at a really competitive, you'll be able to pull that together in a competitive way. And I think what Suzanne actually mentioned earlier in the comments was, don't put all your rates on all channels, and create something that's only available direct.
Yeah.
And you have to come direct, and you have an advantage by being the expert on your particular location, to be able to execute on that well, far better than the OTAs ever will be able to do that.
Good. So partnerships, extending the brand, basically offering different products, etc. That's really the key to make sure that we are, well, not only distributed actually even within the hotel world and the OTAs, etc., our own website, but our partner will talk about the hotel, etc. So it's actually different touch points also to attract different clients.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I hope with more domestic stuff, it'll become a lot easier, because I think it's a lot easier to communicate the value of local community and all that kind of stuff in a domestic market. For me, I don't know, it's easier to relate to, I think.
Well, it is, but on the other hand, I guess if you're a foreigner, or if you're coming from another, I don't know, country, you would go tomorrow to Chicago. You don't know nothing about Chicago. Well, you'd love to have your hotel to tell you, like, okay, you know what, you can do this tour and go there and do that, etc. And I recommend you this place, etc. So I guess in a domestic world, yeah, that's interesting, because we are keen to discover locals, but bringing it for the people that don't know you and the area is also quite important. It's not something to miss.
So I just thought one thing that was on the previous discussion is, like, how do we is it like a completely lost opportunity, right? How do we compete with all this traffic, like the actual acquisition phase, if all of those that are responsible originally for the discovery or the awareness phase of the buying cycle are now executing on the rest? It goes back to that argument that everyone was OTA bashing for years, and every trade show that you went to, everyone was like hating on the OTAs, which was kind of got quite boring quite quickly. But essentially, they're not going anywhere. They're going to be there, right? Whether you like it or not. Google are growing. You got Booking.com also doing great. They're there to stay, right, for the foreseeable, particularly Google. So let's just accept that they're there, okay? And is our Google My Business page got absolutely everything on it, right? Have we listed all of our events in the event listing area of Google My Business? Have we pushed out our offers through Google My Business? Have we pushed out all of our photos completely up to date? Are we responding to every single review that comes in instantly? Because reviews now in Google actually impact your search engine. So yes, they're here to stay, and yes, we can bash them, but you might as well use them as well, because the more you invest in your brand, albeit on a different profile, you're still investing in your own brand. You're still fixing that wallpaper that's falling down on your bedroom wall, because it's an extension. Like, all of these digital touch points are an extension of the physical asset that you have. And I think by bashing them and ignoring them, we're cutting our nose off.
No, be friends with your enemies, right? It's really important, because they're bringing you business anyway. So I think
they serve a purpose, of course, but no.
I think also as well, you mentioned, Harry, about making sure your offers are there, but make sure your website's on Google My Business. 9 times out of 10, branded channels actually come away from Google for no reason at all. So make sure you always check to make sure that your website actually does appear on that Google My Business, and that's always top. I know there's never going to be a chance it will be, because obviously Booking.com and Expedia and all the OTAs are paying for it, but certainly make sure that you are up there and visible, and you do either have a strike through to show a lower rate, or that you have the lowest rate possible, for sure.
Yeah. And also, fun tip on Google My Business: if you have multiple revenue streams, always list each individual revenue stream as a separate entity in Google My Business. If you have a restaurant, list that as your restaurant. If you have a spa, list that as your spa. Because if someone is looking for a spa near somewhere, your hotel listing is not going to come up with that. Even if it's a facility, it's not going to come up with that. So just as a quick tip.
Oh, that's a really good tip, actually.
Yeah, never thought of that. That's actually new. Every week we're learning something new. It's amazing. I just seen Ali's question. I do want to get to that because Ali used to be a revenue host, Ali Northfield, and she has asked a question there in regards to revenue managers. And do you see them, getting trained up in the digital world? So where am I? Where is it? I've literally lost it.
Extending their skills.
Yes, extending their skills. So do you see revenue managers extending their skills into digital, or more the other way around? The digital marketers are taking more of a revenue management role?
I think that the success, particularly, well, like Google Hotel Ads, right, is the perfect blend between revenue management and marketing, because you can bid on a particular room type on a particular day for a particular stay date, for a stay length, sorry. And so by pushing that, are we yielding or are we marketing, right? It's like, it's kind of, and I think that's where the two need to work so closely together. Like if revenue are saying, okay, well, we've got a, we've still got quite a few to sell in 6 weeks time for this particular room type. Okay, well, we can plug that directly into Google Hotel Ads and push that in particular. Or, who knows that if Google Hotel Ads are starting to list organic listings, maybe we need to optimize for that, And I think there's never been a time that they need to talk to each other more, because the lead time, it used to be the case that Google, if you made a change, it would take freaking ages for it to turn up in the results, and it wouldn't be that dynamic. Like organically, it wouldn't be that dynamic, but organically things are speeding up massively. You'll see like news, organic news now is only a few hours old. So it's incredibly dynamic. Like offers, if you put an offer or an event up on your Google My Business listing, it's instantly there. People can see it instantly. And so there are ways that you can organically respond in very, very quick time to revenue needs in a marketing way. So perhaps it used to be that whatever revenue needed, marketing was kind of more of because like particularly organic was such a long-term thing. You couldn't respond to instant needs on revenue, but now you can, whether it is through media spend or whether it is through sort of more organic means, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like it's long gone the time where you had your marketing calendar with your events for the next 6 months and you had all your marketing plan done. I mean, this is not working. Yes, you'll always have Christmas and Thanksgiving or whatever. However, you need to be more reactive, and that's the way that you're going to grab your clients more quickly. We've seen it when there's massive events or things in the news or catastrophes or stuff, and hotels are reacting. Look, anybody living around because there's been, I don't know, a flood or a fire or something, like you can come and stay in our hotel. This is working. This is what we want from a hotel, actually, something from that is quite reactive. So to Ali's point, it's if hotels are lucky enough to have the two jobs, this is really important to keep the two of them and make them work more together, and maybe have talking about KPIs earlier, like maybe like interact in that sense, making sure that they are looking towards the same goals, basically. If not, well, they anyway both need to understand each other's, and if you don't have a digital marketer in the hotel, then you need to train someone to at least understand it and work with external consultant or agencies or whatever to help you doing that. But that's really key.
Yeah, like marketing have to see that pickup report. They have to.
Right. Conscious of time, maybe one last topic quickly, a bit on the fun side. So what kind of new dream technology we could have in 2021 that can impact the habits? So I don't know, VR, stuff like that. What are you the most excited about?
Go on, Christine. Or...
Oh, me. Oh, God. No, I'll let you go first because I need to think of this because there's just too many right now.
Okay, I think for me, the most exciting thing, and this is quite nerdy because I'm a very boring, nerdy individual, is that there are so many distribution APIs coming thick and fast to the market. And most of the new travel tech has such amazing connectivity that it allows people like me who kind of just make stuff in the travel tech world. It gives us so many opportunities, right? So you can, there's now room booking APIs that you can programmatically have, you can bring in your rate into your marketing content. You can bring in room types, live room types into your marketing content. There's flight booking APIs one called Duffel, right? You can offer flight search through your website, through your own through your own marketing material. You've got tour. So I was talking about activities and experiences earlier. Treksoft have created a cool sort of internal startup type thing called Experience Bank. They've got 30,000 experiences, all bookable, searchable, and available via API. So you can theoretically, we can pull that in, right? If we're trying to be the experts in our area, let's handpick a few. And the margins that you can get on a tour booking is like 25%. So it's a massive revenue opportunity as well. Like let's think that if you're if a lot of your guests are actually going out and doing all of this stuff anyway, and we can make 25% margin on it, what's not to love, right? And so the where all of the main big OTAs have dominated for so long, where in packaging, it's been impossible to package or do anything creative from a distribution point of view as an independent until now, because actually all of these tools that we now have at our disposal are genuinely there and coming thick and fast. So that creates so many more opportunities to be creative with distribution and actually create serious value. Whereas before, I guess your only value proposition from a direct point of view was like, oh, we'll have an upgrade on us, or it's the same rate, or we'll have a bottle of wine, something like that. But you can actually properly add value now through all of these, in a very seamless way, through all of these cool, exciting distribution APIs.
Cool. Anything to add, Christina?
Proper machine learning, so that proper PMSs, proper everything can learn 100%. And again, that's the only way through it is to open API, so that PMSs actually become a lot more, receptive to everybody else's changes. You've got cool people like Harry who are like dreaming of all this magical technology that can plug into something very, very seamless, like a cloud-based. But if you're on a server and you're a big PMS company, you're kind of very reluctant to let the guys like Harry knock on the door who can actually help and who can actually change the sphere completely. And I also think blockchain, we've heard about it for a long time. I think next year is going to be the year blockchain explodes, for sure.
All right. Let's meet in a year's time then.
Same back channel. I'll probably still be wearing the Christmas jumper.
Anyway, that's a really good transition to our talk next week, because we're going to have two real tech experts. We're talking IT here, because IT is very often underestimated in hotel and hospitality as a whole, whereas they can really help have the vision of how things can plug together and how we can really get the information from different places and into one platform, for example, and how we can deliver that for a better service to the guests also. So tune in next week at the same time, 1 p.m. UK time. We're going to have two guests with us. Suzanne will be back and Christina will be here. And thanks very much, Harry, for joining us. It was really insightful. We had lots of comments. And yeah, thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
If you've got questions for Harry, reach out to him, annoy him.
Oh yeah.
I know I'm going to be doing it now.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, so just find me there.
All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.